Okay, we'll just do the standard prayers. I'm going to work from this, use this sheet. Um, if you don't have it, just you can meditate upon what we're saying. So we'll do it in English so that you can meditate on the meaning. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha through the positive potential I create by listening to teachings and the other paramitas. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. I'm not going to repeat it. Because I want to cover more um, of these prayers. So we'll go on to the four measurables. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings never be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. We almost never do this invocation of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, but I'm going to go ahead and read it. So just listen. This is what we're doing is inviting the essence of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas into our practice and study right now, right here where we are, to sort of mingle with us and support energetically or however they can support our study and practice. So here goes. And this is something that the monks had us do for years and years. And so just wanted to share this. Victorious conqueror in your entourage, you are the refuge of all sentient beings. The divine who conquered never-ending armies of Mara, and the one who perfectly knows the reality of all things. We invite you, please come here. You, the victorious conqueror, for countless cycles of eons, you accomplished infinite love and compassion for the welfare of beings. You fulfilled great endeavors and aspirations, and here you are to serve all beings, your ultimate objective. From the palatial realms of Dharmadhatu, you demonstrate various feats of miracles and blessings in order to release innumerable sentient beings of various kinds. We respectfully invite you and your stainless entourage to this place of ours. So that's encouraging us to really feel, and they say that when we study and practice or discuss holy beings rush to support us energetically or however that works. I really don't know. Next, now that we have assembled this entourage of holy beings around us, to them we recite the seven-limbed prayer, which is said to be one of the most effective ways to accumulate merit because these seven limbs or seven thoughts sort of are the essence of our attitude towards our teachers and the teachings. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every type of offering, actual and mentally transformed. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time and rejoice in the merits of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until samsara ends and turn the wheel of Dharma for sentient beings. I dedicate the merit created by myself and others to the great enlightenment. So that's dedicating it to the enlightenment of all sentient beings. Next, we'll do the mandala offering. We'll go ahead and do that in Tibetan. Many of us, if not all of us, but many of us know the tune, and so we'll do that. So visualize, if you know this mudra, or you can simply hold your hands in prayer. What Lama Basant taught us was to put your thumbs inside, like as if you had a jewel inside of your hands. That's making an offering. It's instead of empty hands with your thumbs out, you tuck your thumbs in, and that represents a jewel inside of the flower. That's the closed flower bud. So if you do that way, in any case, the main point is to visualize a purified environment. Sajipaki Chakshin Medito Tramri Rablingshi Nidegen Adi Sangye Shindu Mikte Uwarki Drohunam Dakshin La Chuparsho Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kambirya Tayami.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Today we continue with Nagarjuna, and these particular verses are.
Han, just real quick, Merritt has raised her hand.
Oh, okay.
And so she may. Oh, Merritt unknowingly raised her hand. I have lowered your hand for you, Merritt. I thought you had something important that you needed to.
Jazz hands.
Like world peace just broke out.
Wow.
And she needed to inform us.
Yeah.
World peace has broken out. It's just our appearance is
Just our appearance has broken out. So with that in mind, having world peace break out in our appearance, Nagarjuna has very kindly given teachings and suggestions for practice, things to do and things to avoid that will help us have a very calm mind and a very clear mind on a daily basis, which is invaluable if we're trying to get our stuff together. So we'll go right to the first of these verses, which is 138. And this is about wisdom as being a kind of inner freedom. If we have wisdom, we will have an inner freedom that outside influences cannot affect. So here's the Jeffrey Hopkins translation of that verse. From wisdom, one has a mind unshakable, non-reliance on others, firmness, and is not deceived. Therefore, O king, be intent on wisdom. And remember, Nagarjuna is giving advice to a king in all of these verses, a king who was a supporter of Nagarjuna's, and clearly a Dharma student as well. So this king was, really trying to do the right thing, and Nagarjuna was helping it. Here's the modern rendering of that. Wisdom makes the mind steady and clear. It frees us from confusion and the need for external validation, which is a biggie for many of us. We don't feel right unless we are validated by somebody. And he's saying we don't actually need that to have wisdom. So this is about thinking clearly in a clouded world. Wisdom in Nagarjuna's sense is about seeing things as they actually are, instead of through the fog of our habits and emotions. A wise mind isn't easily manipulated, it's not easily flattered, and it's not easily intimidated, even when emotions and social pressure or our ingrained habits, could cloud our judgment. Wisdom makes the mind steady and clear because it understands that causes and conditions shape our experience. This promotes a sense of perspective and reduces our personal attachment to events, allowing us to respond more skillfully to situations, leading a greater emotional balance and clarity in our decision making. When we acknowledge that situations are shaped by external conditions, we become less reactive. So this is about understanding that everything arises due to causes and conditions. And when we understand that everything that's appearing to us in the world, everything that's appearing to us in our relationships, within our family and circle of friends, all of these it's arising due to causes and conditions for each individual. So it's understandable that we have such a level of confusion and anxiety going on in the world because everybody's sort of coming from their own set of causes and conditions. So if we acknowledge that, we become less reactive. Instead of taking events personally, which is what we usually do, we can approach them almost with a curiosity and an openness about it. Especially in terms of, really in terms of our relations with other people. You know, if we're with somebody who is really very, very different in their way of thinking and really different from us and we could easily trigger them, in other words, by saying something. If we are more open and curious about where they're coming from, that helps to just diffuse any kind of tension that could erupt. So we take responsibility to be more open, more curious, not be reactive and sort of push our view onto someone else. Just get a feel for where they're at and don't react. This shift in mindset reduces emotional upset and promotes a sense of calm, not only within yourself, but within the person that you are not reacting to. And this can happen a lot these days. I mean, I think we're all well aware of what has happened. Wow. I would say over the past, in a really, really big way, over the past 20 years, there's been what I would say a conscious kind of division going on within this particular country. And it's been pushed by all the media outlets, and it makes everybody have very strong opinions about things. And so we have to be very careful with one another, even within our own families. It can erupt into very uncomfortable discussions and arguments, and so this advice that Nagarjuna is giving us is extremely relevant for right now. So we don't trigger or create more conflict than we need to.
So, Christopher, do you know who Mel Robbins is?
I don't.
So, she is an author who has published a book that has sold 10 million copies this year. And the book is called Let Them. And the whole idea behind this strategy is to not put any energy into whatever somebody else does and take all the energy that you put into somebody else and put it into yourself.
Mm.
And so it's kind of let them and let me. But it's amazingly popular for something that's come out of Buddhist practice for centuries. But there are many people in the world today who find that a very interesting approach to things. I think they look at it and say, well, we're just going to ignore people. But I think the idea is to not react to what they do, not invest your time and energy in what they do, let them do whatever they want to do. Don't worry about what they think about you. Don't worry about what they're planning to do, and then, to turn that energy inward and use it to your own benefit.
Yeah, then that's really great advice, because if you think about it, each one of us has our own particular slice or view of what our reality is, and that is based on all of the causes and conditions that have come together to produce who we are right now. So So it's each one of us is coming from a very different place. And if we realize that, which Nagarjuna is saying, realize that, then exactly what you're saying, let them be who they are, look at who you are, and then sort of recognize that there's a whole range of diverse causes and conditions making everybody behave the way they do and think the way they do. And that helps. I really think that helps a lot to diffuse all this tension and anxiety, because what happens if we think if there is this way is the right way and it's the only right way, and somebody is not buying into that, it can create a lot of anxiety within us, and some people just get very verbal about that, and things begin to escalate. And what we don't want to do is that. We don't want to escalate something that is divisive and harsh and non-supportive. We want to do the opposite of that.
Christopher,
Yeah.
it just taking it a moment further is that when we do that, what Brian was suggesting in the book is so Buddhist in that we become the cause and condition. We become the cause and condition by our inner peace, our inner work, and it's so what we've been studying all this time.
Yeah. If we don't add an energy of tension to a room, then we're generating a cause and condition to lessen that tension. Exactly what you're saying. Yeah. So this is it's just something for us to think about and to actually practice. When we find ourselves in conversations with even those who we live with, on a regular basis. Because all kinds of things come up, not just stuff that has to do with the news, all kinds of things. So, by understanding that our thoughts and our feelings are influenced by numerous causes, we can better discern our own reactions. This clarity helps us respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. Somebody said, think twice, speak once. Don't impulsively allow something to just blurt out of your mouth, because what happens is, and when I have done that, I've really regretted it. Just sometimes it can even just be a word, just a particular word that triggers somebody in a way that you didn't realize they'd be triggered, and they go off on projecting all kinds of things onto you because you said that word. It's crazy, but that's kind of where we're at right now, and so we have to maneuver this very wisely. He's saying use wisdom. This is inner wisdom. Really, really use wisdom to work through this particular period we're in right now. And obviously, it's not just right now, because if he was talking about this to the king, in the 3rd century, it was going on. And, same stuff. So this clarity helps us respond in a non-impulsive way. So it encourages a much more balanced view of our experiences, leading to a steadiness in our mind. Nagarjuna emphasizes that there's psychological freedom in this kind of clarity. Psychological freedom. He says wisdom has 4 qualities to it, or brings 4 qualities to it. And this was from the verse. The first is an unshakable mind. The second is non-reliance on others. The third is firmness. And the fourth is being not deceived. So we'll take those one at a time. With an unshakable mind, if we have an unshakable mind, we won't be thrown around by praise or blame. Both praise coming at us and blame coming at us, we will see if we go, all right, everybody has their own particular sets of causes and conditions and arisings. If praise is being thrown on me, that's coming from their point of view. It really doesn't have as much to do with me. So you don't take it on board as if, oh wow, I am this, whatever they're saying, however they're praising. You just go, thank you, but not let it really let it disturb you. Same goes with blame. The blame is a lot more difficult because our egos love praise, but we hate to be blamed. But the same goes for blame. That blame is coming from their point of view. It's not you. And so you have to be really steady and centered in knowing who you are, and realizing that, all right, somebody's blaming me for something. Is that valid? And if it's not valid, then don't let it bug you. Just don't let it bug you, and don't. I mean, you could even say, thank you for pointing that out to me, but not in a snarky way. Not in a snarky way. In a way that acknowledges what they said, but doesn't escalate the situation in a negative way. Yeah, and it's going to take practice, because ego, more than anything, hates to be blamed. When we're little kids, what's the thing we always say when our mother says something we did wrong? We'll go, "It's not my fault. It's Johnny's." We point it to somebody else. We don't deflect blame. So that's a really big one. A really big one, to be really solid about ourselves, so that we can take that and look at it honestly and clearly, and not react in a very emotional way. So that's an unshakable mind. An unshakable mind. It's grounded, it's stable, and it's resilient. An unshakable mind. And resilient is a big one. To be able to, not let conversations and situations throw us down into a state of, I don't know, depression, anxiety, or self-loathing, or whatever it may be, hatred towards the other. Be very resilient. That's important. The second of the qualities is non-reliance on others, and this is not referring to being isolated. It's not referring to being isolated. It means that our own personal sense of self and our own moral compass isn't constantly dependent on others' approval or some kind of external validation. We have to know for ourselves what is morally right for ourselves. We have to know who we are and how we feel about ourselves, and be very centered and grounded in that. And so that no matter what anybody may say, we cannot be thrown, to the ground because of it. Some of us are so and we've all experienced this, so needy, so wanting love and attention, that if somebody criticizes us, we're just completely shattered. There was a guest who was here last week, and clearly this woman was going through issues. Probably had to do with hormones and stuff, because she was in her late 50s.
40s.
Late 40s.
Yeah.
And you couldn't even, the only way to talk with her was to be so supportive, so kind, so accepting, and you couldn't just say, "Hi, how are you?" in a very regular way. It had to be, "Hi, how are you? How are you feeling?" And then she wanted to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. And she said, "What I need, I'm here for healing and love." She was here for a job interview, but what she really needed was healing and love, And so that's what comes from not being sure of who you are, or not being, centered and grounded, and, being thrown off. So it's very important that we don't rely on others in order to feel stable, in order to be sure of who we are, and don't rely on others to tell us what our moral compass is. We rely on the Dharma. I would say that for sure, rely on the Dharma, because it's very wise. The third is firmness. And that firmness is the inner confidence to act in accordance with truth, even when it's uncomfortable. So when we're talking about truth in Buddhism, we've talked about this a lot. Truth, nature of reality. What is that? It is that everything is interconnected. Everything is interdependent. And in that sense, and with this is getting into some really deep territory, but everything is actually non-dualistic in that sense, because it is so interconnected and interdependent. Nothing actually exists on its own. Nothing can stand alone by itself. So when we're talking about this firmness, to have the inner confidence to act in accordance with truth, is acting in accordance with that truth, that we are all interconnected. There is, so in other words, my view or your view, or, so when we're in a situation, say we're in a situation where we're on a particular one side of the aisle and somebody else is on the other side of the aisle, and they're very strongly on the other side of the aisle, and they're pushing it and pushing it. And the thing to remember is, we think that's all coming from them. But what is going on is, what is our view of them? That's the thing that matters. What is our view of them? Because that's the thing that's coloring and shaping our mind and our thinking. It's all actually coming from our view of them. So if we can see, this person, I am connected to this person, I'm interconnected with this person, there's some kind of a non-dual arising here. What do I want this to look like? Do I want to, blast back at this person and fight and create more tension? Or do I want to find a way to ease the tension, make the person feel okay? I mean, really, that's what matters. It doesn't matter to fight with them. That only creates more problems. Fighting is not the solution. Not on personal relationships, and definitely not between countries. It doesn't work. It never has worked. So we need to be wise and find another way to go about this. And I think, coming from truth, being very firm in what truth is, according to Buddhism, will help us enormously. We will see that we're connected, and we won't want to sever that connection. We will want to strengthen it, no matter what, no matter who. It's a lot.
Christopher,
Yeah.
Christopher, can I ask a question on that? I don't know what's wrong with my camera, so I apologize.
Okay.
But so I totally appreciate the idea of not wanting to add tension. I totally appreciate trying to be aspire to understand someone else's perspective, and I totally appreciate being interconnected. I wonder about, however, the wisdom associated with someone who is behaving in a harmful way, either to ourselves or to others, and the applying the same principles that you just discussed about the appropriate response, or a need or an urgent requirement to act to prevent someone from harming yourself, themselves, or others.
Yeah, absolutely. This goes back to what we talked about, Kevin, last week even. It's the same thing. If it's actually harm is being caused, the first thing is to stop it. Do whatever it takes. I mean, if somebody is physically attacking or verbally attacking somebody in a really terrible way, then you either try and remove the person who is being attacked. That might be the easier thing to do than to remove the one who's really, very agitated. But just stop that situation from escalating. Yes, of course. Buddhism is all about non-harming. So if harming is occurring if it gets to the point where harm is occurring in one of these situations, then absolutely we have to do whatever we can do in a calm and as peaceful as possible manner. And but sometimes we'd have to be very quick with that. And that takes judgment and wisdom too, to know how to approach something like that. That's it. But your point is really well made, Kevin. I think it's not that we should allow harm to be going on. If somebody's actually being harmful, then we can't really accept that.
Well, I think you just sort of said it right there, and they actually. So then we have to apply pretty strong levels of honesty to decide what's actually harmful and then what's our opinion of something that's harmful.
Yeah.
And I think it sort of boils down to that. And that debate, some things are obviously, you're in a situation and a gunman opens fire on people.
Well, then
That's obvious.
obvious.
That's not the same as you're an employee at a company and you think the CEO's you don't like the CEO's policy, and so you start criticizing them. And I mean, that's
Yeah.
first of all, you don't know all the elements,
Right.
and this goes very deep. So you have to be smart about what's your opinion of a harmful situation and what's actually a harmful.
Right. I mean, because what can happen in that situation, you're talking about the CEO in a company, if you start spreading around your opinion of what's wrong with that CEO and other people within the company get on board with that opinion, when you're actually causing harm for the company.
I mean, I had it happen to me in a job.
Yeah, I know. This is why I remember
Just
this.
one of my peers was rubbed the wrong way by me and badmouthed me, and eventually even the people that reported to me started looking at me like I would, and these are people I had hired and was really,
Yeah.
really generous and good and helpful.
And what was the wise thing that you did?
I quit.
Right. And sometimes that's what, just remove yourself from the situation.
Yeah, I could.
Every situation is different, Sometimes when it's like physical violence, you stop it.
Yeah.
You just stop it. You do what you can to stop that from happening. But in something like that, then you remove yourself. If it's a very toxic environment,
That would be a let them, okay, let them.
Exactly.
I'm out
Because
here.
what else?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a good move.
Mhm. Yeah. And you were glad you did.
It's when you put yourself in those when you find yourself in those situations, because I had probably in previous, maybe not exactly, but I think we've all experienced the difference between trying to, quote, defend ourselves against a perceived thing, that somebody's criticizing us, and you try to work to prove them wrong. But also you realize, I mean, in that particular situation, it's like I just am not interested in this battle.
Right.
Enjoy.
Just let go of it. Right.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of
I mean,
it's all judgment and
Yeah.
intent.
Right. And sometimes the more we try to defend ourselves, the more we get attacked.
But I think, sort of circling back to Kevin's initial point, because I don't really see any dichotomy here, in my opinion, Kevin, because there's not like, anyway, I'll just leave it there. I don't see a dichotomy between what Nagarjuna is suggesting and what to do when someone's causing harm.
Yeah.
Well, this is advice to a king.
Yeah, it's advice for a king, but
So
we're kind of like a king of our
Yeah.
little world, and so that's it's advice to us as well. Each one. We need to each think of these qualities that he's talking about and put them into our own circumstances and situations, and see how they work for us. The last one is called being not deceived. And being not deceived means that we can recognize illusions or false narratives or manipulative influences. We recognize that when we come up against it. We can recognize something that's manipulation or that's not really true. And it's not true because we're trying to be manipulated into something. I mean, we're dealing with this all the time now. We're dealing with this all the time with the world we live in and businesses and media and I mean, all of that. I mean, I don't know if you get any of these emails. I've just been deleting these emails. It's some kind of it's all AI pictures of people, right? So they're not really people. And then there are all these headlines. It's like it's the latest headlines. It's all AI.
That's the new thing.
Yeah, and it's all these latest headlines. This kid shot this many people in this store, and this kid killed his mother, and then you're going, what? It's just that trying to tell you the world is a mess out there. It's just a mess, and I can recognize this is all AI stuff on these. So I'm deleting them, putting them into trash, and all that, but junk. But this is going on. We are being doled out false narratives left and right, and we have to be very wise and do due diligence in terms of recognizing what is false and what is not false.
It happens in families too. I mean, I know of two people off the top of my head who's within their family, it was in sort of bad qualities of a family member were repeated over and over again to, roughly speaking, sort of poison the opinion of other family members.
Yeah, we have
For
to be,
some reason, for who knows why.
we have to be very
But it's,
careful.
it's
And it's hard to turn that around after a while.
If people buy into it,
Yeah, well, that's what I mean.
Well, sometimes the person who's being badmouthed, especially within a family, they start to just take that on board.
Well,
So
I think that's
they
kind
live
of,
into it.
what you said, Don, is extremely important. It's hard to turn that around. And I remember this from my marketing career days, that if a authority figure or somebody that's in a position of authority, say, says something, a mother or father would be a family, a manager, a boss, a news reporter, if they say something, and even if it's not true, we have a strong, weird thing that makes us believe it. So, and we see this all the time. I don't mean to push this button, but it just popped into my head. When the claim was that if you get a particular vaccine, you can't spread it and you can't get it. And, so once that belief is spread out, you will still find people even today, despite the evidence to the contrary, that will say that and believe it. It's weird. It's like, even once we know differently or have experienced differently, it's very hard to shake. I think Mark Twain said, it's easy to fool somebody, but and it's almost impossible to convince them they've been fooled. Is the way he put it.
This goes back to one of these points that Nagarjuna talks about.
I don't know why that is. It's
Just be firm in who we are. Know what our moral compass is. Know who we are, so that we don't get jerked around like that. There is a bias that exists to believe authority. We're sort of brought up that way. We're trained to believe what the authority says, whether it's God, the church, the government, the whatever, the parent. And we have to look again. What is our truth? What is our moral compass? And when I say truth, according to Buddhism, you look at it that way. So if somebody is being badmouthed, you go, well, wait a minute, this does not align with interdependence and interconnectedness. There's a mistake here, and I'm not going to buy into that. But it takes work on our part, because there is a bias for authority. We're brought up that way. We're trained that way, and this is why it works so well, on large groups of people. Okay. So in an age of information overload, which is what we have right now, that's generating viral, contagious emotions and constant distractions, this might look like using these four qualities: unshakable mind, non-reliance on others' opinions, basically, or others. Yeah, like that. You're very firm in who you are and what you know is right, and not being deceived. In this kind of age, what this might look like is pausing before reacting to social media outrage, which, occurs on almost a daily basis. Social media outrage. Not being swept into panic by headlines and peer pressure. and observing our own emotional triggers without automatically acting on them. So we see what our emotional trigger is. We feel the thing coming up, but we don't automatically act on it. We basically just look at it and keep our mouth shut and keep our hands to ourselves. Don't let that out. Because if it's a trigger that's going to erupt into some kind of argument or something that's not going to be beneficial within the environment, then why do it? Why let that out? You know? And this is difficult to do. It's going to take some practice because triggers aren't like that. Triggers are like, well, you just do it. So this is, is good advice he's giving. Psychologically, cultivating this wisdom strengthens our own self-regulation, reduces our anxiety, and prevents the ego from being diverted by ever-changing external stimuli. It's a form of mental independence that allows for compassionate, deliberate action instead of reactive behavior. Wisdom gives us a little space between stimulus and response that allows us to catch our own biases, the way we lean toward this or that. It helps us distinguish between our feelings that are telling us the truth and our feelings that are telling us a story. And when I say truth, always go back to what Buddhism is saying the truth is. Interconnected.
I was just thinking mostly everything is a story, even if we think it's somehow true, it's still a story.
Yeah. Oh, well, look at,
I'm just saying,
Look at history, right?
No, I mean, just even the most ordinary things, it's still a story. It's a story. I live in a house, I live in a body. My name is Kovita. My mother is this, my father's that. I did this, I did that. It's all a story.
It is a story, right?
And some stories are good to live with.
They're okay. They're not a problem unless you let that define you or box you into them.
Yeah. That's where the wisdom comes in.
Okay, let's go on to the next verse. This is verse 139. It's about what Nagarjuna calls the four goodnesses, And here's Jeffrey Hopkins' translation of that verse. A Lord of humanity, having the four goodnesses, truth, generosity, peace, and wisdom, is praised by gods and humans, as are the four good practices themselves. The modern rendering of this is a person who cultivates truth, generosity, peace, and wisdom earns respect from everyone, human and divine. So these are like the four pillars of a noble life. And Nagarjuna is distilling these four qualities that make any person, whether it's a leader, a partner, a parent, or a friend, actually a trustworthy person. Truth, generosity, peace, wisdom. These qualities make our lives effective, they make them ethical, and they make them psychologically sound. Truth is honesty grounded in care and an awareness of consequences. It's not something that's harsh and it's not self-righteous. Speaking truthfully helps reduce the psychological discomfort experienced when we are holding two conflicting beliefs or two groups of people that you're in are holding two conflicting beliefs, or when our actions don't align with our words, or when we're in a group and the people's actions are not aligning with their words. If we can hold these, the truth, generosity, peace, and wisdom, truth is the one that can keep us from being pulled in this direction of not having our words match our actions, and not holding two conflicting beliefs. Generosity is the giving of time, the giving of attention, or resources without expecting a return. That's generosity. It softens our own mind, it reduces our attachment, and it strengthens social bonds. Peace is a mental and emotional kind of calmness or tranquility that's achieved through cultivating beneficial actions of body, speech, and mind, and restraining from the harmful ones. This is the basic Buddhist beginning practice. That's peace. If we do that, we restrain the harmful actions of body, speech, and mind and develop the good ones. That's going to result in this calmness, this peace. Peace clarifies. Wait a minute. Yeah. This kind of self-control that we have, if we control our body, speech, and mind, this is it reduces stress. It prevents impulsive behavior, and it earns respect of others. People recognize that when they experience it in someone, and they respect them for that. Wisdom is the ability to see through all of the confusion, assess situations clearly, and make decisions with confidence. Wisdom protects us from manipulation, and it fosters psychological resilience, sort of like we talked in the first set of what those were. They all have different names. They're the four qualities of wisdom. These are the four pillars of a noble life. So all of these work together. They sort of work together like a well-oiled gears in a machine. So generosity encourages peace by creating bonds of goodwill and understanding with one another, which helps to heal divisions and reduce conflict. So generosity encourages peace. Then peace clarifies wisdom by creating a calm environment where we can actually have some kind of thoughtful reflection, and it allows us to make better decisions. If we are very, very agitated, wisdom is not going to come forward. We need to be able to have a calm center. So that's peace, and it clarifies wisdom. Wisdom then guides truthful action. The truth, these are the four pillars. Truth, generosity, peace, and wisdom. Wisdom guides truth. It helps us apply knowledge and understanding in a way that fosters genuine understanding and connection. And it aligns with our moral principles and our ethical behavior. So that's how wisdom strengthens the truth. Then truth strengthens generosity because it strengthens the connection between people. It allows acts of giving to be actually sincere and meaningful. Rather than when we're truthful and honest, our generosity reflects a genuine desire to help others rather than being triggered by some ulterior motive. I'm so generous, put my name up on this building because I gave this much money, blah, 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 blah. That's not actually generosity. That's generosity with an ulterior motive. In most cases. Generosity is a genuine desire to help others, not you don't use it to make yourself look good, in other words, in the community. So that's how truth helps. That's how truth helps generosity. So practically speaking, develop even one of these qualities, and there's going to be a ripple effect. Being generous with our time could cultivate patience and clarity. Practicing peace in our interactions with others can make honest feedback easier to give and easier to receive. If you're talking with somebody who's very calm, seems very centered, and you're talking about, say, problems in a relationship, well, then you can feel much more easy about talking about those things because that person is very calm, very centered, and you realize it's not going to explode into some awful situation and fight. But we have to be the ones who are the common-centered ones, because if we're not that, then it's not going to work. It's not going to work. So these are actually really important. They're psychological tools, really, for getting along in the world, getting along in our relationships, getting along in our families. They are really beneficial psychological mind tools. And we don't have to master these 4 qualities. Just moving in the general direction of them makes our life feel better, makes our life feel more grounded, makes our life feel more meaningful, and our relationships feel more real, and our relationships feel stable when we move in the direction of these qualities: truth, generosity, peace, wisdom. So Nagarjuna is saying most people find that one of these qualities comes naturally and one feels like a stretch. So the quality that makes a stretch of it is often where our most meaningful growth will occur. And that's for each one of us to look at for ourselves. I mean, you think, which of these 4 goodnesses, truth, generosity, peace, or wisdom, feels strongest in you? Which of those feels strongest in me, And which one of those could use a little more attention? And so you focus a little more on the one that could use more attention. I think most of us would say we have a little bit of all of those, but not, nothing in spades. So it's something to think about. Any discussion on that? Comments? Anything? No? Okay. So the next verse is about the company we keep. And here's the Jeffrey Hopkins translation. This is verse 140. Wisdom and practice always grow for one who keeps company with those who speak advisedly, who are pure, and who have unstained wisdom and compassion. That's asking a lot.
It is. Especially me.
So
We're spending a lot of time alone.
I don't even talk to
it's
myself.
like I said, all we have to do is start moving in that direction. We can begin working on this stuff. So here's the modern rendering of that. Keep close to those who are honest, content, wise, and kind. Their company will help your wisdom grow. So of course, there's not going to be anyone we know practically, unless it's, the Dalai Lama or, something like that. There's not going to be anyone we know who's like totally all of those things. But if we at least recognize them, that they have those, they have some of that, then we can, and that we have some of that, then we can work with one another. We really can work with one another. And it's good to be hanging around somebody who's like that, rather than someone who's, really quite the opposite. Really, well, I think we all know people who are not this way at all. It can be so difficult to somebody who is such a downer all the time that it just, and complaining and whining and needy. It becomes very difficult to grow your good qualities when we're constantly in a relationship with someone like that. So Nagarjuna is suggesting we find people who are at least moving in this direction. So he gives us really practical and down-to-earth insight. Our minds become like those people who we spend our time with. We're like sponges. We absorb habits, we absorb attitudes, we absorb energies from the people we hang out with. We know this. This is really true. I remember my mother, she had this friend, her name was Jean Babine, and Jean Babine had a very particular way of talking, blah, blah, blah. And everyone in my family could tell when my mother had been visiting Jean Babine, because all of a sudden she was like a different person when she came over, and she was talking like Jean Babine, and they were like this, and so they probably were affecting each other in the same way. But it was it's very easy sometimes to see a person who's really like a sponge. You can see, oh, you've been hanging out with so and so. I can tell, I can just tell by the way you're acting and speaking. Well, we do the same thing. we do the same thing. And so he's saying it's really important that we choose carefully who we're going to spend most of our time with and hang out with, because it's going to make a difference on us, our minds, our emotional stability. So we should be wise to choose companions, actual or digital, who strengthen our clarity of mind rather than muddy it up. Nagarjuna underscores the importance of beneficial, helpful friends who model ethical behavior and wise judgment. These friends speak truthfully but kindly, even when the truth is uncomfortable. They live ethically and aren't motivated by selfish gain. They show practical wisdom in both spiritual and worldly matters. And they have compassion and patience rather than anger and resentment. This is like this triad of things that I've noticed. Anger, resentment, neediness. Anger, resentment, neediness. Neediness, anger, resentment. And it goes nowhere. It just goes around in a very, very negative cycle. And it's difficult to pull yourself out of that. So we don't want to hang around with people who are the same way, angry, needy, and resentful. It's just going to feed those qualities that we have in ourselves. So we be wise to choose our companions carefully. Psychologically, keeping company with such people helps rewire our habits and judgments over time. Their clarity and integrity act like mirrors, reflecting our potential back to us. So, the best kind of people like this that we could hang out with, and although we can't do it all the time, would be like our spiritual teachers, the monks and the nuns, and people like that who are steeped in the Dharma, because they're going to have a tremendous effect on us. Kavita and I were very fortunate. For years, we were able to spend a lot of time with Geshe Dragpa Yelek and Lama Pasam. I mean, a lot of time. We went on trips together. They stayed at our house. I mean, just a lot of time. And those qualities we got to experience. We got to live with them and see what it was like. And so I think this helped us a lot. And anyone, if you ever have the chance to do that, to spend some time with one of these, Buddhist teachers that you really respect, it's going to have a great effect on you, because they have these qualities. They've studied it. They've worked on it. They really have them. Good company does not mean perfect people. It means people who care about goodness, kindness, honesty, curiosity, and growth. When we spend time with these kinds of people, something within us aligns. Even brief encounters with wise or grounded people can change the direction of our own thinking. Conversely, toxic or manipulative influences subtly poison our behavior, often before we even realize it. All of a sudden, one day you go, wow, my life sucks. I can't, these friends I have, it's going nowhere. I need to get out of this. I need to get out of this particular circle of friends, the company that I'm keeping, because it is affecting me. So this, it may happen to all of us at certain times throughout our life, but we recognize sometimes we need to shift our friendships or who we're hanging out with, because they're sort of bringing us down, and we don't want to do that. It's not that we don't love those people, but the energy is not working. I mean, I can think of a long time friend like this who I still feel very close and grateful to this person, but it's not helpful to hang out with them. Yeah. Anyway, that's just I mean, I don't know if any of you have had experiences like that, but
Something I'm wondering about is how could it, just as a practitioner, can it ever be beneficial to hang out with somebody that you know is, let's just say their habit is to be negative and critical and argumentative and this and that. I mean, once in a
I think you
while.
can.
I think it depends on where we're at on the level of our.
Okay,
of
I mean,
that,
once
you
in a
know.
while, can you go and just like
Yeah,
know
because
that
it
that's
shows
what
up.
it is and just sort of model not being that way?
Yeah.
As a,
Well, and also see is there any way, one could be a with it.
or also you could just test out to see if you can just stay the course.
Right, yeah. I think so, but to do that 24/7 is.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I just was wondering.
Yeah.
It does help to know yourself and be kind to yourself when you can't and when you're feeling
Yeah.
that, okay, I think my head's in a good space and this person, I know they're going to need to talk to somebody. So I'm going to call them and ask how things are going and just be prepared to give them, some wisdom if you feel that it would help them. And again, not be pushy or demanding that you do this way, or I'm never going to talk to you again.
Yeah, that's great though.
But
I mean, that's.
It does help. I think it can be part of your practice.
Mhm.
I mean, it could be your practice period in some cases. The best thing you can do for yourself.
Yeah. But we have to actually be following the Dharma to be able to do it. Right?
You're not going to do it to someone that,
Yeah.
can you hold the bomb for me while I push the button? Or, you're my friend, aren't you? It's like
Yeah.
anxious attachment.
Right.
Aren't you going to help me? No.
Okay.
I mean, in a way, that's what the monks do. They hang out with
Yeah.
us.
That's what I was thinking. The monks do that. The monks and nuns, they do that.
I hope they're okay.
So, in today's world, this kind of company includes the accounts we follow online, the media we consume, the conversations we join, and the voices from our past that we still carry with us. So that's something to think about.
What's interesting about this particular teaching, and today especially, but in general about this Nagarjuna text, is there's a certain way it doesn't even seem like Buddhism. It just seems like really good advice.
Well,
Psychologically to just
it's excellent psychological advice. Buddhism is about the mind.
This is the couch.
We're talking psyche here. That's what the Buddhism is about, and finding a way to not suffer. And in Nagarjuna's story, if we don't want to suffer, this is the direction we want to go in, even if it's uncomfortable at first. And it's always uncomfortable at first. It's uncomfortable in the middle too. It's probably uncomfortable all the way up to the very end.
Also, I'm sorry. Did you expect?
Yeah. So, but that's where we're at. This is samsara. It's the land of suffering. The land of I don't know what you call it. I don't know what you call it. So, good friends, Nagarjuna is asking us to treat our environment of relationships as an essential part of our practice. Treat our environment of relationships as an essential part of our practice. Good friends, including our spiritual teachers, aren't just pleasant companions we spend some time with. They are the stimulus for our own transformation and awakening. So that's important. All right, this is a good one. Talk about things that can be uncomfortable but are very, very important. This is about the blessing of hard to hear truths. These are verses 141 and 142. Here's the Jeffrey Hopkins translation. Rare are helpful speakers. Listeners are very rare. But rarer still are those who act at once on words that, though unpleasant, are beneficial. Verse 142. Therefore, having realized that though unpleasant, it is helpful, act on it quickly, just as to cure an illness one drinks dreadful medicine from one who cares. So the modern rendition of this is it's uncommon to find people who give good advice. It's even rarer to listen to it carefully. And rarest of all is to actually act on that good advice, even when it's uncomfortable. But if you do act, it's like taking bitter medicine that heals you. So this is about medicine for the ego. Nagarjuna points to one of the central challenges of psychological and spiritual growth. We resist what threatens our comfort or ego. Remember, samsara is a product of ego. Samsara arises because of me, mine. That's where we're at. So we're going to resist whatever threatens the ego or the comfort of the ego. It's just going to be that way. Helpful advice is often unpleasant because it challenges our habits, our biases, and our self-image. Nagarjuna compares this guidance to bitter medicine, difficult to take in the moment, but vital for long-term healing. So if we act on it immediately, we maximize the benefit of it. If we delay or ignore it, it allows the destructive patterns that we have to continue. Psychologically, embracing constructive feedback strengthens our self-awareness, our resilience, and our moral courage. It teaches us humility without diminishing our self-worth. That's huge. Humility without diminishing our self-worth. That's an important psychological
That's a balancing
thing
act.
to be at. Yeah. Because we need, ego needs humility. We need to so in a way, what we can recognize is the things that somebody is pointing out to us that are problems with us. Well, it's actually good to hear because it's those things that keep us humble. It's those kinds of things that allow our humility to grow in a positive way, to go, this really isn't good. I need to figure out how to change this rather than going, no, and just keep going, blowing up the ego, being filled with pride and resentment and anger and all of this kind of stuff. To take on difficult advice from a good friend is consider it part of your spiritual practice. So here's just some thoughts for reflection. When was the last time someone gave advice that we didn't want to hear, but later realized that was valuable? And I think we probably all can think of things like that. And how can we cultivate the humility and courage together to act on difficult truths quickly rather than postponing or just dismissing them? That's what the ego will do. First of all, we'll just dismiss it. And then if it doesn't dismiss it, it's going, well, okay, well, I'll get to it later. And then all the old patterns and habits, take over again. It's so clear. We all know this. So we can leave that there unless anybody wants to talk more about that in an attempt to try and get through everything. All right, here's verse 143. Life's fragility and the urgency of practice. We've all heard this one. Here's the Jeffrey Hopkins translation. Always considering the impermanence of life, health, and dominion, you thereby will make intense effort solely at the practices. And the modern rendering is life, health, and even power are temporary. Keep this in mind and dedicate yourself to meaningful practices. So this is about the clock is ticking, and so pay attention to what truly matters. Nagarjuna is opening this verse with a wake-up call that's resonating from his century all the way to this century. Nothing lasts forever. Not our power, not our health, not our reputation, not our comfort. Nothing. He's speaking to a monarch here, a king, but he's really speaking to all of us. Even when our life feels stable, it's like a cloud drifting across the sky. It's temporary, unpredictable, and constantly changing. Any of us who have dealt with the death of a close one know this. We go, oh wow, they're not here anymore. It was like a cloud going by and now it's gone. It's the same for all of us. We have to not push that away, but actually embrace it and use it as a motivation for our practice. If we do that, then this life becomes incredibly valuable. One day, all the accolades will fail. One day, the health will decline, and one day, even life itself comes to an end. He's not giving us a pessimistic doom and gloom speech here. It's more like a gentle but firm nudge to pay attention to what actually really matters. If we're caught up in chasing fleeting pleasures or climbing the ladders of status and success, it's easy to forget that all of these achievements are impermanent. The more we internalize the impermanence of life itself, the more we naturally prioritize our behaviors and habits that have lasting benefit, namely the cultivation of wisdom, compassion, and beneficial action. From a modern psychology perspective, Nagarjuna is highlighting something that behavioral scientists recognize as well. Humans tend to overvalue the present and underestimate long-term consequences. This is a bias that's called temporal discounting. We prefer immediate rewards over future benefits, which can lead to impulsive decision-making, poor long-term planning. If we forget that our bodies, minds, and circumstances are fragile, we overinvest in things that give immediate satisfaction but have little enduring value. He also ties this to Dharma practice specifically. The goal is not just to be aware of death, but to channel that awareness into engaged, committed effort in the practices. This includes purifying destructive karma, generating good karma, listening to teachings, practicing the 6 perfections: generosity, ethical discipline, patience, enthusiastic effort, meditative concentration, wisdom. His message is really practical. We can't assume that favorable conditions, health, social support, will continue indefinitely. We cannot assume that. Every moment is an opportunity to practice and prepare for circumstances that are inevitable and are beyond our control. Nagarjuna then introduces a very critical point of this: avoiding the causes of a lower rebirth. Unhealthy attachments, unhealthy desires, and addictive behaviors not only harm ourselves and others in the present, but they also set the stage for our suffering in the future. By learning to temper these desires, we automatically reduce a wide range of harmful behaviors. This frees our mental and emotional bandwidth for better purposes, including the study and practice of the Dharma, cultivating love and compassion, and developing bodhicitta, this unconditional love that wishes to become enlightened for the benefit and happiness of all sentient beings. So we can make a conscious shift toward these kinds of practices when we recognize the impermanence of this life. And that can be a beneficial shift, and it will be beneficial for both ourselves and for others. So he's asking us to take stock of life's fleeting nature and let that recognition ignite a sense of urgency and intention in our practice. And, this is one of the first teachings in the Long Rim, I think. And the monks used to talk about this all the time. So Nagarjuna is just pointing this out, how important this is. We make the most of our limited time and energy. Make the most of it. So what we do is we turn impermanence from a source of fear into a source of wisdom, clarity, and being beneficial, compassionate action.
I just thought I would get slightly specific here and mention His Holiness. There's a saying that His Holiness either wrote or spoke that got put onto little scrolls and framed like wall art that we were given, and it points directly to this, but it answers a certain question. So it's today I'm fortunate to have woken up. I'm alive. I have a precious human rebirth and I'm not going to waste it. And then the next part is why I'm speaking up is just if you want to hear His Holiness's very brief, in very few words, summary of what it means to use your life in a meaningful way, it's I will use all my energy to develop myself, to extend my heart out to others, and to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. So if you just develop myself, see, it's basically summarizing what does it mean to not waste your life.
Mhm.
So you then, you have to, based on your study and where you're at and your, what does it mean? Develop myself in what way? What qualities, you know? And it can look like, I'm practicing the guitar a lot and I'm doing it for a variety of reasons that have to do with developing my mind, concentration, patience, also demonstrating to myself that once you set your mind to something, you can accomplish it. So stick with things. If I was in a different situation, I might be instead working on developing single pointed concentration, in the classic way. But I mean, so developing, and then to achieve enlightenment requires you to then say, okay, what are the methods to achieve enlightenment? And maybe I should do more of those. It's not just a nice thought, in other words.
And it doesn't mean, that we can't have a good time.
No,
That's what we tend to think. The ego will think, well, what do you mean I can't, have a good time? I have to spend all my time practicing and studying. Well, no. I mean, we can do all the things we do in life, but we bring the practice into it. We have to understand what the concepts are, what the practices are. But where the rubber hits the road is when we actually bring it into our lives, when we bring it into our jobs, our careers, when we're going on trips and we meet other people, or with our families, or for Thanksgiving or Christmas. We bring all of that Dharma we bring that practice into everything we do. When we're driving in our new sports car or whatever, we bring our Dharma practice into that so that we're not calling everybody on the road an asshole as we're, going by in our shiny red convertible. So it doesn't mean we can't enjoy our life, but what it does mean is we bring the Dharma into every aspect of our life. And the Dharma will make us actually enjoy it more, in a more genuine way, in a more loving and compassionate way, in a wiser way, like all the things Nagarjuna's been talking about. So, the ego tends to hear this, like that bitter medicine again. Oh, I'm going to have to study the Dharma rather than just have a good time. The Dharma is going to actually make us have a good time, and even a better one than we would have otherwise. Okay. So now he's going to some two things that he says we need to stay away from, and one is drinking and one is gambling. And so here's 146. It's about the hidden costs of intoxication, and it's not just drinking and drugs. 146. Intoxicants lead to worldly scorn. Your affairs are ruined. Wealth is wasted. The unsuitable is done from delusion. Therefore, always avoid intoxicants. So the modern rendering is alcohol and drugs can ruin your reputation, your finances, your relationships, and judgment. So avoid them. And what we're talking about is not just occasional use here and there. We're talking about where it becomes a habit. Then it becomes a real problem. And I think all of us have seen this, either with ourselves or we've seen it in our families. I mean, we've seen the disaster that it can be. And it's so difficult to pull out of it. So just avoid it. I mean, he's saying, he's very clear, whether it's alcohol or drugs, intoxicants aren't just a harmless escape. It's not some kind of temporary fun. There are real consequences that come from both, it's both visible and it's subtle for ourselves and for everyone around us. He points out that those of us who frequently indulge in intoxicants lose the respect of others. It's not a moralistic judgment. It's just an observation that's rooted in human behavior and social dynamics. I mean, reliability, trustworthiness, and clarity of mind, all of those are compromised with somebody who is, a terrible addict or on their way to being one. Colleagues and friends and family start talking about us behind our backs if we're doing this, if we're behaving this way. This is one of the things the ego hates the most. And yet that's what happens. And worse, they silently lose respect for us, which quietly erodes our influence and relationships over time. I think we've all seen it. I know I've seen it. I've seen it in my own family. It's devastating and sad. And so he's saying, don't go there. Just don't go there. And of course, there are huge practical costs. I mean, there are also legal costs. I mean, within my own family, there were arrests. There was going to jail. And then there were all these restrictions then put on being able to work and make an income. And we see this over and over again. There are costs that come with it if you let it go the full course. So he's saying, stay away from it. It clouds our judgment. It's bad all the way around. I want to finish it, so I'm going to move on to the next one. And this is the last. And this is verse 147. This is about gambling. It's the hidden costs of chasing luck, really. 147. Gambling causes avarice, greed, unpleasantness, hatred, deception, cheating, wildness, lying, senseless talk, and harsh speech. Therefore, always avoid gambling. And this is Nagarjuna talking in the 3rd century. So the gambling has been around a long time and has the same effects. Here's the modern rendering. Gambling makes people greedy, deceitful, and argumentative, so it's wise to avoid it. So gambling isn't just a harmless pastime. It is a subtle trap that can quietly unravel our mind, emotions, and relationships. On the surface, it might look like a lot of fun, a game of chance, the thrill of possibility, the hope of winning really big. But underneath, gambling fosters greed. When we start focusing on others' wealth or comparing our gains and losses to somebody else's, it plants the seeds of insatiable greed. This craving can spread like wildfire into every other area of our life, making us restless, anxious, and even envious. Emotionally, gambling stirs up unpleasantness and agitation. Losing money triggers frustration and anger. Winning can fuel temporary excitement, but also reinforces attachment and obsession. When stakes are high, people often justify unethical behaviors, cheating, bending rules, or even lying to those closest to them, all in the pursuit of that elusive win. One's mind becomes wild, distracted, and reactive rather than calm and intentional. Speech also can go haywire, from gossiping about others' luck to snapping at friends and family. These are all unnecessary conflicts. Now, this next observation I think is really interesting because, in a way, it applies to many of us now in society who don't even think of ourselves as gamblers. But I'll read it and see if this reminds you of anything. Emotionally. Sorry, wrong paragraph. Gambling. Gambling is like a miniature stress experience for the brain. Modern psychology and neuroscience show that the unpredictability of wins and losses hijacks the reward system in the brain. dopamine surges with every maybe win, which can be addictive, keeping us chasing more even as losses mount. It's a recipe for emotional instability, poor decision making, and a constant state of agitation. Does this remind you of anything the public is going through now at large?
In just 2 weeks, somebody you don't like is going to be arrested.
Right. Somebody you don't like, they're going to go to jail. Right. So it's just 2 weeks more, and we're sure we've got it. We've got everything on Trump. He's going to jail.
Or the
2
market's
weeks.
going to
2
go
weeks
out
more.
in 2 weeks.
2 weeks more. We're going to have the Jeffrey Epstein files, and Trump is going to go to jail along with a lot of other people. In well, you name it.
News.
Yeah, it's the
And
news. And what this does,
go to $1 million.
what does this not?
Bitcoin's gonna crash.
Does this not? It does this not? Hasn't this become addictive? And it makes us constantly chasing after the next win. You know, yeah, well, you know, just wait. When the Mueller report comes out, then we've got it, and none of it ever happens. We lose every time, but it keeps us agitated. It keeps us fighting with one another, and it keeps us addicted to this cycle of watching this, waiting for the next thing that's going to happen in 2 weeks. Oh, we got all the info on the Kennedy assassination. It's coming out. We're going to know who did it. Did it come out? No. Does it ever? No. Does anybody ever go to jail? And if they do they stay alive? The only one who's still alive is Ghislaine Maxwell that I can think of in this whole big scenario. So it's what I'm trying to point out is that this is known, a known kind of pattern, and it's being used. It's being used. Don't be fooled by it, is what I'm trying to say. This jumped right out at me when I saw it. Anyway, so it's not exactly gambling, but we're having the effects. We're experiencing the effects that a gambler would experience by letting this, jerk our chain. So Nagarjuna's advice is clear: stop it, avoid it. It's not about forbidding enjoyment or risk entirely. It's about recognizing that habitual gambling or this habitual kind of behavior fuels destructive patterns of mind and behavior. So we steer clear of it, and we'll be able to maintain our mental clarity. We'll be able to preserve our relationships, among our friends, with our families, and open space for helpful actions that actually cultivate long-term happiness and compassion. Choosing wisdom over this is one of the simplest and most effective ways to avoid unnecessary suffering for ourselves and for those we care about. So that's yay, we got it. That's it. Any observations on any of that? I'm impressed. I find that Nagarjuna's advice is extremely practical for the 3rd century and for the 21st century. It doesn't lose any of its punch or potency. And I think to me, that's the wonderful thing about the Dharma. That the Dharma can adjust, and it has. It can adjust to any time, any society. Initially the Dharma started in India, then it went to Tibet, then it spread to China and the East. And then, wow, in the 60s and 70s, a major thing occurred with Lama Yeshe Lama Zopa Rinpoche and His Holiness the Dalai Lama. When the Tibetans came out of Tibet, there was this whole migration into the West. And look at us here now. It's because of that. It's because of those wonderful people. Some of them still alive. His Holiness is still alive. So it's been an amazing thing, and I'm incredibly grateful for it. And I'm amazed at Buddhist psychology, how astute and how it gets right to the point. So, how about some closing prayers?
We'll do this guru dedication. In all my rebirths, may I never be separated from perfect spiritual masters and enjoy the magnificent Dharma. Completing all the qualities of stages and paths, may I quickly achieve the state of Vajradhara. May anyone who merely sees or hears, remembers, touches, or talks to me be instantly freed from all sufferings and abide in happiness forever. It is only from the kindness of my Guru that I have met the peerless teachings of the Buddha. Thus I dedicate all merit so that all sentient beings in the future may be guided by kind and holy Gurus.
Okay. It's 12:30. Perfect. Wow. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris Kovida.
Thank
You're so
you.
welcome.
Hi, Evie. Bye, Evie.
Okay, y'all don't want to miss next week. It's something I've been something I was very concerned about, and now I think I've found a way to express the teachings of next week. So we'll see. Come and find out. Okay.
Okay.
Great class.